3 minutes on that, 2 minutes on that.
Good morning. Today's meeting of the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee is called to order on this day, September 9, 2025. Welcome, everyone. Agendas of today's meeting are at the entrance to the meeting room. Please remember to turn off your cell phones. This committee is appointed by City Council annually. Most of us served on this committee last year, but we do have a couple of new faces. Amanda Warner from Wade Trim will be leading our discussion today. She will be asking the committee members to introduce themselves at the top of her presentation. This committee is tasked with some very important work. Because of the professional work each of the committee members do, we are all very aware of the issue of housing affordability. Plain and simple, we need more housing that is affordable to our citizens, and unfortunately, there are a lot of reasons why capable developers choose not to build it. The job of this committee is to identify strategies that reduce barriers to development of affordable housing and strategies that incentivize the development of affordable housing. I'm going to ask each member of the committee to introduce themselves. I'm going to start to my right, and we're going to come this way. Please remember to push the button on your microphone when you're talking. Oh, there it is.
Good morning. My name is Sherry DeBlair from St. Petersburg College, and I am representing Essential Services personnel.
Good morning, Christine Bond, and I am representing the homeless community and those in poverty.
Linda Byers. I am a citizen of the city of St. Petersburg.
Good morning, Sharisa Doty with Clearwater Housing Authority, Affordable Housing. Good morning, Kelly Betsford at Hope Villages of America.
Good morning, Michelle Chenault. I'm representing the Community Development Board for the City of Clearwater.
And I'm Robin Fiel, your chair, and I represent residential lending. The only item on today's agenda is to participate in a discussion led by Ms. Warner with Wade Trim and the city staff. We have a lot to discuss today. City staff, are you ready to get started?
Good morning. I would like to thank you all for your time, efforts, and commitment to supporting affordable housing in our community. Your work truly makes a difference, and we deeply appreciate everything you do. At this time, I'd like to introduce city staff. First, we have Terry Malcolm-Smith, our Housing Ship Administrator. Terry, please stand up. Next, we have Jessica Chuka. Sorry, Jess. Our Housing and Community Coordinator, and Lauren Matsky, our Director of Planning and Development. Lauren. We have Jesus. Please stand. Thank you. With us is also joined our consultant, Amanda Warner with Wade Trim. Amanda. Thank you very much, everybody. Amanda, could you please come up?
Good morning, everyone. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, great, super. Could I please have the PowerPoint presentation? Great, thank you. All right, perfect. Can everybody see the slide on the screen currently? Okay, perfect. All right, well, welcome. So we are kicking off the first meeting of the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee for year 2025. So to get started, I'm going to provide you with a background of what the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee is. It assembles annually, so I'm going to explain what that is, why you were invited to come today, and appointed as members of the advisory committee, and what our task is for the next few months. So as mentioned, my name is Amanda Warner. I'm a planner with Wade Trim. We're a consultant to the City of Clearwater. We assist with housing and community development service planning for the City of Clearwater. The Affordable Housing Advisory Committee is something that is required by a grant that the city receives from the state of Florida, and that's the State Housing Initiatives Partnership Program, otherwise known as SHIP. So you'll hear me refer to SHIP, and you'll see that on the slides. So in 2007, the AHAC was originally started as a requirement of the SHIP program. It's part of the grant reporting requirements to continue to receive SHIP funding. And in 2008, the city established its first Affordable Housing Advisory Committee. Since then, a number of affordable housing advisory committees have formed over the years. Originally, it was an every 3-year or triennial requirement. However, in 2020, the state made it an annual requirement. So you'll see that the committee meets more frequently now because now it's become an annual requirement. So in 2025, we're at our 9th AHAC with the city. So it's been going on for quite a while now, and we're happy that you were able to join the committee this year and participate. So the duties of the AHAC, what is the AHAC required to do? So under Florida statutes, the AHAC is formed to review the local housing incentive strategies report of the City of Clearwater. That's a report that's prepared for the SHIP program. And that report evaluates local government policies. So policies and procedures, ordinances, land development regulations, the comprehensive plan, anything that really affects housing from a regulatory perspective where the city would be the regulatory body for that. So the LHIS and then the AHAC itself makes recommendations to City Council. So recommendations regarding actions or initiatives to encourage or facilitate affordable housing while protecting the ability of property to appreciate and value. So the purpose of the committee is really to look at the overall menu of policies that the city has and then make recommendations if there are any opportunities for incentivizing affordable housing. So the AHAC meeting requirements are that the AHAC must facilitate the necessary meetings and public hearings for the adoption of the local housing incentive strategy. So that's the LHIS report. All meetings are public meetings, so today this is a public meeting, and then all records are public records. You may have noticed in your invitation to this committee that you are BCC'd on communications. That's because this is subject to the Sunshine Law, so just please remember to not communicate directly with other committee members regarding committee matters. And then the staff of the City of Clearwater provides all the administrative and facility support for this committee. If there are any concerns or needs that you identify during the process in terms of the committee, please reach out to city staff to help accommodate you. So looking at the schedules, so in August 2025, the committee was appointed by a city council. That occurred on August 21st. When you see the term governing board, that refers to the City of Clearwater. And on August 21st, the committee was appointed. The AHAC will meet to discuss this pretty much every month until December. So right now we're in the September-October window. We're talking about the LHIS report, looking at the previous report, and then making recommendations. In November, we'll be looking at holding a public hearing to approve the updated LHIS report. And then in December, this will go back to the City Council. So the AHAC will make recommendations to City Council. The City Council will ultimately be the approving body for that LHIS report. And then the LHIS report gets submitted to the state in support of the SHIP program. After that submittal, City Council has time to review the LHAP, which is a Local Housing Assistance Plan. I know these are a lot of acronyms, but the LHIS report informs the LHAP. The LHAP ultimately gets submitted in May of 2026. So we're looking at a process right now of about 4 months with the committee, and then looking into the next year for that LHAP, which city staff will help put together and submit that package to the state of Florida. So that's where we are in the timeline of things. So the AHAC meeting schedule for the next few months here is September 9th. Today is our first meeting. Then we'll meet twice in October. So go ahead and pencil those dates down. So October 14th will be our next meeting after this, and then we'll meet on October 28th again. And then, as I mentioned, on November 18th, we'll hold a public hearing. It'll look very much like this meeting. It'll just be advertised as a public hearing for the recommendation approval. So that'll be in November. So that's our schedule moving forward. So we're going to be talking about affordable housing in the context of the SHIP program. So the definition of affordable housing, there are several different definitions. Some of these are taken from the City of Clearwater Comprehensive Plan, and some of them are from the Land Development Code, as well as Florida statutes as well. So we have a number of different definitions up here. One is that monthly rents or monthly mortgage payments, including taxes and insurance, do not exceed 30% of median annual gross income for the household. This is probably something you're familiar with, the 30% rule. Any residential dwelling unit leased or owned by a household with a household income of 120% or less of the adjusted area median family income for Pinellas County, and that is defined by HUD, what that 120% and what that area median family income is. For rental units, shall not exceed rates for annual maximum rents by number of bedroom unit published for the Tampa, St. Petersburg, Clearwater MSA. So that's the Florida Housing Finance Corporation. And then for non-rental units, the sales price may not exceed 90% of the average area price for the Tampa, St. Petersburg, Clearwater MSA, and that's an IRS definition there. So we're looking at generally this definition of affordable housing, depending on whether it's renter, owner, or how much a household is paying. So if you look at these definitions, what does that mean currently? So for 2025, the HUD definition of median family income is $98,400 for this particular area, Pinellas County. 120% of that is $118,080. And then if you look at that 30% threshold annually, that would be about $35,424, or monthly would be $2,952. For the IRS definition, that's that 90% average area purchase price. The nationwide average purchase price right now is $540,700. The 90% nationwide average purchase price, that's the 90% of that, is $486,630. And then we have max rent limits. That's the Florida Housing Finance Corporation. That's for SHIP specifically. And you can see the breakdown there for 1, 2, 3, and 4 bedroom units. And then the column to the far left there is the income level. So we have extremely low income, 30%, very low income, 50%, low income, 80%, and then the 100% mark on that. And then for Pinellas County, the HUD fair market rent by bedrooms, we have the bedroom numbers there, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and you can see how the rents appear there under the fair market rent. So this is just looking at all of those definitions and how that appears right now in 2025 numbers. So affordable housing agents. So we're talking about the supply of affordable housing currently and the demand for affordable housing currently, which really is out of the city's control, if you think of it. So what the city can do, however, is facilitate or regulate that supply-demand ratio. So City Council makes decisions about regulations and ordinances. The AHAC can make recommendations to the City Council, and city staff is there to support by implementing those. So I just want to really emphasize here the relationship between the city and the market, and that the city doesn't have direct control over the market, but it does have some influence depending on the regulatory decisions that are made. So in the 2025 LHIS report, you'll see there are values, principles, and a vision statement for the AHAC. So the components of the LHIS report, in addition to those values, principles, and vision, include the actual local housing incentive strategy themselves, and those affordable housing incentives are organized by Florida statute. So I'll go into that a little bit further, and then there are also some additional incentives in there. The affordable housing values that were approved during the last report were affordable housing supports a dynamic and competitive economy. It improves social well-being and builds a sense of community. It aspires to have housing that fits the city's workforce and that everyone deserves a safe and affordable home. Does the committee have any thoughts about these values or any changes to these values moving into the 2025 cycle? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. So the affordable housing principles that were in the previous report, there were 6 of them. One is that affordable housing be affordable over the long term, that there's a diverse supply that provides for a mix of income levels and the diverse needs of residents, that affordable housing be designed to be sustainable, energy and cost efficient, and to minimize physical barriers to accessibility, that affordable housing is in aesthetic character with the surrounding neighborhood, that affordable housing be strategically located and pedestrian-oriented with access to mass transit, open space, educational institutions, and employment or workforce training opportunities, and that affordable housing is incentivized to promote the incorporation of affordable housing into all housing developments. Any thoughts about these principles for this year? Okay, all right. We'll keep those then. And then putting that all together, the Affordable Housing Vision Statement, this is what the 2024 committee concluded with, is the City of Clearwater will incentivize the development of a diverse supply of housing that is safe, accessible, affordable, sustainable, and energy and cost efficient, that blends into the aesthetic character of all the city's neighborhoods, proximate to public amenities and employment opportunities, and which supports an inclusive community and the diverse needs of residents. Any thoughts about the vision statement or any changes this year? Okay, all right. So we'll keep those values, principles, and vision moving forward into the 2025 report unless there are any concerns brought up later. All right, so local housing incentive strategies. So again, we're looking at barriers and incentives to affordable housing. Barriers over on the right there, there's quite a few. I'm sure you can add many more to this list. We have supplier expertise, the cost of production, land availability, infrastructure capacity, information access, codes and regulations, process, financing, public perception, and again, probably many others in addition to that. But that's what we're really talking about when we're talking about barriers to affordable housing. Anything that discourages developers from producing the affordable housing products. All right, so under Florida statutes, there are 11 required incentive areas. This means that the AHAC has to look at those 11 areas and discuss them. Now, whether or not the committee makes recommendations regarding them is totally optional. However, you have to at least discuss those 11 areas and say, do we have incentives that address these or not? If we do, what do we do to improve them? Or if not, or if there's a decision not to do any incentives. So those are the 11. Additionally, over the years, the AHAC, again, spanning back to 2008, has added some additional AHAC initiative incentive areas, and those are discussed annually as well. And you can see those on the right side there. So really, we're talking about currently in the LHIS report, as of 2024, there were 16 total incentive areas that are included in that report. So I wanted to talk about the Local Act. This continues to evolve over time, but I just wanted to bring it up because it does have some bearing on affordable housing. So it uses affordable housing as defined in Section 420 for Florida statutes, and that's the 120% area median income. It allows cities to approve affordable housing projects, including mixed-use projects on land zoned for commercial, industrial, or most recently, religious institutional, if at least 10% of the units are affordable. It requires cities to allow multifamily and mixed use in areas zoned for commercial, industrial, or mixed use. That includes PUDs now. If 40% of the units are affordable for at least 30 years, and then for mixed use, at least 65% of the square footage must be residential. And then if less than 20% of the city's land is designated for commercial industrial use, the city is required to approve a multifamily project as a mixed-use project. So this is all under the Live Local Act, under Florida statutes, and the most recently amended version. But under the Live Local Act, the city may not require a process such as rezoning or land use change, variance, or comprehensive plan amendment for density, height, or land use if the project is claiming the Live Local Act. May not restrict the density below the highest allowed residential density anywhere in the city or below 150% of the highest allowed intensity. Restrict the height below the highest allowed height for a commercial or residential building within 1 mile of the project or 3 stories, whichever is higher. And the most recent amendment provides exemptions for projects adjacent to single family. There's a 150% of adjacent height allowance, or projects in historic districts, 3/4 of a mile of the project, or 3 stories, whichever is higher. So those are the things if a project is coming in with the Live Local Act, this is what would govern it. Additionally, the city must approve the project if it meets the city's land development regulations for multifamily in areas zoned for such use and is otherwise consistent with the comprehensive plan except for density, intensity, height, or land use. Reduce the parking requirements if within 1/2 mile of a major transit hub or 600 feet of other available parking. And then every 3 years, the city must update its inventory of city-owned lands appropriate for affordable housing and make publicly available, and that was starting October 1, 2023 is when that started. Additionally, there's some other incentives under Live Local Act. There's quite a few, probably too many to discuss this morning, but there are options for city tax exemptions, property tax incentives, and sale tax refunds on building materials for affordable housing projects, and that's based on the number of units and the percentage of area meeting income. So the Live Local Act is out there. It still exists, and it does have some bearing if projects choose to use that. And again, this is for projects that are coming in under some of those other land use designations that are not specific to residential, so commercial, industrial, et cetera. All right, so part 1, inventory. So we're breaking this into 2 discussion pieces. So part 1, we're talking about the inventory of what the city currently does. So our intent here is to update the inventory of best practices incentives to provide affordable housing and looking at city affordable housing programs and procedures, the comprehensive plan policies themselves, and the land development code regulations. So here we want to have a discussion about what your perception is currently of affordable housing in the city of Clearwater, and we're going to start that with talking about what you perceive to be the current barriers. So are there any barriers that you believe really rise to the top in terms of what the city should be focusing on addressing currently? And I'll leave it to Robin to chair this discussion. Yep. Anyone have any thoughts about barriers? Yep.
My main concern that I see within the Live Local program is the parking requirements.
Okay.
They refer to available parking elsewhere, but is that public parking, shopping parking lots, office building parkings that are nearby? What is defined by available parking? I have an issue with parking in the city of Clearwater when it comes to restricting parking, given that people are attached to their automobiles as umbilical cords, so, you know, they don't like to walk too much, to be honest with you. So I see it all over the city that there's a lot of parking on main thoroughfare roads, parking in yards, multiple cars, because I see that a lot of the rental properties have multiple people living in a two-bedroom unit. You know, I know there's restrictions as to how many can live in a, depending on the number of bedrooms, but they all have automobiles, and they park them in the yards. So eliminating parking it may cure one problem because you got more density, but then it creates other problems with the number of cars that are. So I have an issue with that, so I don't know how you define other available parking or eliminate parking on major thoroughfares or parking on in yards and so forth. Is that, so I have issue with that
Okay, all right.
as it applies to live local. On page 7 of the report, it identifies affordable housing as safe and affordable. And then on page 11, it identifies safe and energy efficient and other things. I would recommend eliminating the word safe on page 7
Okay.
and leave it as affordable housing, because affordable housing may be defined on page 11 a little bit differently.
Okay.
Okay, that's just
All
what
right.
I noticed.
So that was page 7 and page 11 were the
Yes.
two. Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Thank you very much.
And one other was accessibility. I can't recall exactly where. I know on page 11 it's identified as accessible, and I know that some federal programs require a builder to build accessible, you know, widen doorways and so forth and so on. Oh, I know, it was on the incentive page to developers. There's no mention of an incentive to build an accessible unit
Okay,
for someone with disabilities.
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, any other comments about barriers to affordable housing? Any current barriers? Yep.
The current barriers, from my perspective, are the fact there's not any available.
Yeah.
It's the sheer number.
Okay.
And then the qualifications, you know, 3 times your income is very challenging for people. So, you know, our focus is more income-based housing than affordable housing, because many of my clients would never qualify for any housing.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I did know what she just said, because there's just not enough of it here.
Okay.
And we just see so many people that want it, need it, and I personally can't find it, or they don't qualify. And it's just that constant crossroads you get to. And so I don't know the way, I know I'm new, so I don't really know the way around that, if there is a way.
So what do you think the primary factor is for discouraging the production of affordable housing or the availability of affordable housing?
Supply demand, I think that they can get more on the open market.
Okay.
As a broker, developer, realtor myself, you can almost do the market study, and if you can make $3,000 a month on the open market, but HUD housing, or if you submit your house, your rental home for HUD, for an affordable housing program,
Yeah.
I think the maximum is like $2,800. It's not that much difference. So you know, there have been many clients I've had that have thought that was a good trade-off for the consistency of it. And so, again, it's just that crossroads. You're right on the edge. It's not a great incentive, but it's just, and then there's not enough of it anyway.
Right, okay.
So the only option would be to have the city, which is not going to be popular, subsidize, which is, you know, is there's not, there's not an easy answer. I'm sorry. That I
Yeah,
could
it's
think.
it's a complicated topic, for sure.
Yeah.
Anybody else, any ideas? Feel free to think outside of the box, or anything that just comes to mind, something that you've been seeing with your stakeholders. Each of you represents a different part of the housing industry. Is there anything that, your particular clients or stakeholders are, reporting, or any issues that are really apparent right now?
I think part of the issue is just the cost. I mean, costs of everything have been increasing, and wages are not. And so what's affordable is what's the definition of what is affordable is not affordable for the people with the wages.
Yep. Now, from a developer side, because I do a lot of building, there's the affordability of requirements nowadays to build land development, site development. Let's just start there, because that's not even the cost of a small one or two owner landlord that doesn't build the site out. But I have a property right now that's near here that can't get developed due to all of the site requirements, an underground vault, water drainage, environmental issues. And then, of course, it's in a lower income neighborhood, so the numbers don't work. So it's just sitting there. And it's a great place to build affordable housing, which is what the developer wants to build, but it just can't pencil.
And there's just a site infrastructure barrier there with just the expense of everything and
Yep.
getting everything in the ground to get it even
Yep.
build ready. Yeah.
That's it. So there's that cost as well.
Okay, yeah.
There it is. An example that you mentioned was the cost of construction.
Yes.
And all the regulations that may require additional costs. For example, building a home, a new home on a residential street where nobody else has a sidewalk, and there's one home with a sidewalk, that adds cost to that construction. When actually, there should be an exception to some of these requirements, that if your home's adjacent across the street and there's no other sidewalk on that street, that you should not be required to put in a sidewalk. That's, you
That's
just
very
need to
true.
evaluate each restriction and make exceptions under certain conditions.
And that, I can ditto that for lines, electrical lines overhead. I just personally had to do an entire cul-de-sac, would take all the lines down and put the boxes at each house, even though, but it was required because, yeah. But
Okay. This is all great input. So anything else that you can think of along those lines too? Because those are all really good examples of barriers. I mean, it seems like little things drop in the bucket kind of thing, but it really does affect the overall cost of the project, whether you're talking about an infill single-family home or a large-scale multifamily complex. Anything else?
So from my perspective, we have more and more seniors becoming
Okay.
homeless because they've been in the same apartments for a long time, but those costs have increased, and there's no place to move them. So we're putting them in tents in the swamp of Florida at 80 years old. That's a challenge.
Long-term solutions for senior housing, especially with the cost increase. and
Because the costs are
displacement.
increasing and their income is
Yeah,
not.
and they're displaced. Okay.
Yeah.
I'd like to address that for the elderly as it applies to real estate taxes. There should be a provision for landlords who rent to low-income households that perhaps, based on values going up, taxes going up, rents go up accordingly. If there should be some mechanism, if you're housing an elderly or a disabled person within a rental, then consideration should be given the landlord to, if they comply with federal rent restrictions, that those real estate taxes may not increase as much. There should possibly be an exemption or eliminated at all based on and of course, the landlord's property values are going up, but still, there's some medium, if you will, to maybe reduce the taxes, because you've got insurance costs and other costs, maintenance fees that you have, as a landlord, that you have to take into consideration as well. But as far as real estate taxes on rental, they're extremely high because values keep going up every year. There's no 3% restriction as there is on a homestead property. Just something to consider possibly moving forward.
that's extremely true, because you cannot homestead a rental.
No.
So just those taxes continue to increase, which pushes the feasibility.
And then the cost, rents go up as well, so to cover that. Okay. Any thoughts about, so some of the things that I'm hearing are third-party barriers. Some of them are, some of them not. Are there any things the city directly regulates right now that could be revised or incentivized or something to that effect? So I'm thinking about things like zoning regulations, land development code, permitting processes, things like that. Anything that you've encountered where you perceived that as a barrier or somehow burdensome?
There are, but they're very site-specific.
Site-specific
And
issues?
so it's
Okay.
really hard to make a general comment about
Okay.
the codes or the zoning laws, because it really does depend on the site.
Okay, all right,
But it's nice that you asked that, because it'd be nice to
okay,
have that looked at.
okay.
As far as it applies to real estate taxes, and I know it's not a city issue, it's a county issue, there is a rule that says that if you increase the square footage of your property more than 10%, then your taxes increase accordingly. In my personal opinion, and I have experience in this, that if a home is made accessible, and that means, widening doorways, adding additional rooms and roll-in showers, et cetera, that the taxes, that 10% rule should be reconsidered for houses that are being retrofitted for accessibility. And I am going to be bringing that forward through the regulators, and hopefully in next November, we'll have something on the ballot to be able, because it's not going to affect the budget, because there's not that many families who have. Now, there is a rule that if the owner is quadriplegic, and they just passed in November a rule that if the spouse passes away as a quad, then that restriction, that exemption continues on. But not all children are on the property value to eliminate that tax. Therefore, there should be some consideration for children that are quadriplegic living in the household, even though they're not owners, and you make it accessible, that the taxes should not increase substantially as they do now.
Very good.
All right. Okay, so those are some barriers to affordable housing. What about incentives? So these are things that would encourage or promote affordable housing, things that would facilitate the production. So we're talking about the flip side of the barrier issue.
I think we addressed a couple of those in the fact of perhaps setting up a special, similar to homestead exemption, but a 3% cap on the taxes for people that are renting within certain affordable housing guidelines, or to people that meet certain criteria, or even to seniors. I think that's a very wise thing to do. I just, I don't want to go down another rabbit hole here, but I do want to address something that's a big picture in this issue, is when you get older, I just had a client that's 92 who went, what do we do with seniors who can't afford where they live? And I'm going to say it like this because it really just breaks my heart. Where do they go?
Yeah, and that goes
I
back
don't
to,
know
yeah.
where to put them, and I hate to say this, but they had to go to, they don't have any family, but they went to an assisted living, and I know that's not, it's out of our purview, but they were being charged $10,300 a month for that, and so they had to get to Medicaid. So this is it's a very complex issue. I don't mean to open up a can of worms that we are not going to go down, but it is so heartbreaking. I'm not trying to be emotional.
Yeah.
Okay, so where do you go when your money, when your biggest fear, you outlive your money, is basically, and I'm just saying it like that. But is it our responsibility as a board to look at that? Or what, or affordable housing? I mean, we are a board to look at affordable housing, I think. I know I'm new. So do we address those kind of issues for where do seniors go to have an affordable house to live in?
So the issues that the AHAC can address are all related to what the city has the capability to regulate.
Okay.
So that would be things like zoning, land use, permitting processes,
Okay.
anything, impact fees would fall into that. anything that the city has control over.
Okay.
Now, some of these things are really a combination of county responsibility, state responsibility, you know, it's other regulatory bodies have some play in this, so, but in terms of what the AHAC can address, it's really what the city has control of
Okay, I'm
directly and
sorry.
what the city council would be able to approve or disapprove. But that's not to say that we can't talk about these issues, because some of these issues really are multifaceted, and there are aspects that maybe the city can influence, but maybe only in part and not totally.
Okay.
So just to
Sorry.
keep that within the bounds of the committee is really what the city or the city council can do. But these are all really good points, and I think the issue of senior housing, I believe we talked about this last year. I believe it was one of the issues that came up last year was senior housing, and it seems like this year maybe that's rising up a little more, a little higher in terms of becoming more visible as an issue. So that's definitely something we can explore over the next few months in terms of looking at what the city can do to help encourage or promote housing options for
Because
senior
Florida was
citizens.
known as a place where the seniors
yes.
retired.
Right.
So now
Mhm.
they're leaving.
Yeah. Mhm.
And so I'm sorry I brought it up. I just,
Mhm. Yeah, sure. No, it's a very valid and emerging. I mean, it's been a long issue, but I think it's becoming right now with all of the different financial strains that are falling on people. I think it's becoming more and more prominent as a concern. So, yes. Yeah.
Terry Malcolm Smith, Housing Coordinator. I don't know if I can share the list of senior housing that we support with you. For example, Pineberry Seniors and Lexington Club. They're for folks that are over 60 and the rents are affordable. So if I think Danya has your email, that I'll share that
oh,
list with you.
thank you. I
Thank you. You're
appreciate
welcome.
that so much. Thank you. I really didn't know.
Thank you, Chair. So that's something, I mean, that brings up a good point. I'm glad Terry came up because, you know, SHIP itself, the program, is really to facilitate the production of affordable housing. So if senior housing is something that's in demand, that's definitely something, you know, the city has some housing, but is that something that needs to be focused on in terms of supply? So that's a really good point as well. Anything else in terms of incentives? Yeah. Mhm.
The city of Clearwater, I know, allows accessory dwelling units, which could be very helpful in adding another unit or expanding your home to accommodate an elderly relative or a friend or neighbor or anyone that may be in need of housing. So decreasing for example, you can put 4 small units on one lot that was originally maybe zoned for just one single family and all the mini houses they're constructing now and stuff could possibly fit on smaller lots where you could put 2 or 3 homes, smaller homes on a lot to accommodate more people. It's about,
I don't know if that would be in keeping though with the zoning laws.
and stay within the zoning laws. We'd have to
Be changed.
You'd have to, and I know that's an issue that the city may be working on right now is to address zoning for single-family residential homes that are, they call them tiny homes, I think, now.
Yeah, and that's a good point too. So accessory dwelling units are one of the incentive areas. That slide that showed the 16 incentive areas. So accessory dwelling units are one of those areas. So we'll be talking about accessory dwelling units in more depth. But the city has added some language regarding accessory dwelling units more recently in the land development code. And then I know the city is studying some zoning changes right now. I don't know, Ms. Maskey, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I know there's some work being done on some of the zoning, particularly maybe in the Greenwich area.
Good morning, Lauren Matzke with Planning and Development. So yes, you're correct. We did amend the code to allow accessory dwelling units in all zoning districts now, and it does not take away any density. So it's a free unit that can be added, and I can bring for the next time or make sure it gets to you how many applications we've received. I know we've received a few, It might be, 2 or 3 at this point, but, hopefully with more familiarity, we'll receive more. And we can do more to publicize the fact that that's available. On the webpage, though, it has a cheat sheet to what's needed for an accessory dwelling unit. We are working on some zoning changes for the North Greenwood CRA area specifically. So we're looking to do a density bonus for residential, and then also work on some of the standards to recreate the more traditional Main Street and allow mix of uses along Martin Luther King. So that's in the works, but was delayed due to the storms. So.
Thank you. Thank you.
Doesn't Live Local also address some density issues?
So Live Local, what it essentially does is allow residential into areas that are not necessarily zoned residential, and then also allows some density changes there. So really, let me see how to explain this. So it's more about infill into some of those non-residential areas, allowing other options. So if there's not necessarily residentially zoned land available, it gives the option to go into some of those non-residential areas and actually build housing. With that, if you claim that, there are, as I went through the slide, there are some benefits, and then also some things that the city can't necessarily control once it makes a claim as a Live Local project. But it's something that really provides an alternative if there's not really that residentially zoned land available. Yeah, you may.
Sorry. So another plug, shameless plug, we have a webpage for Live Local also. That being said, the memo that's on it needs to be updated still to capture the 2025 changes, but you could see how we're implementing it, because you kind of need to provide that information, because it really defers to our zoning codes locally, so we provide.
What is that webpage, please? Or do you know it by heart?
No, I believe it was my clearwater.com/livelocalact, but I'm not quite sure. But if you can ask Sunny, our little chat bot, little plug there for public communications work. There's a chat bot that you could type Live Local and it would pull up, or the regular search engine also.
Thank you.
But we're going to be working on updating that in the next month, just to make sure it's all up to date.
Yep, and one of the new things that came out of the most recent amendment to that was that they added a religious institutional as one of the non-residential land uses where a Live Local project can do residential in it. So that was an expansion from the commercial industrial that was previously in there. So, Yep. Anything else before we move on in terms of incentive? Okay. All right. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move forward. So part 2 will be the recommendations. So we're not going to talk about recommendations today, but that'll be your homework for next time. So hopefully everyone received a copy of, I'll just hold it up here so you know what it looks like. This is the 2024 LHIS report, or Local Housing Incentive Strategies report. So between now and our next meeting, please take the time to read this report. And what is in that report is each recommendation from the previous committee. The recommendations are discussed in detail in the first half of the report, but if you flip to the very back, so these are the last, let me see here, the last 5 or so pages of this document, you'll see it has Appendix E, AHAC recommendations, and Appendix E summarizes the recommendations from the previous year. So please read the full document, but if you want to go to the end and just see a little cheat sheet there of the previous recommendations listed, that's Appendix E at the end. So what we're going to do at our next meeting is go through each of those recommendations and evaluate them and consider which recommendations should be continued, modified, or removed. So basically, we'll look at each of those 16 incentive areas, see what the previous committee's recommendations were, and then really talk about those and see whether they should be continued or not. And then also, there'll be an opportunity during discussion of each of those incentive areas to add any new incentives that are not there or weren't previously part of a recommendation. So please don't feel that these recommendations tie you to any particular outcome. These are just what the previous committee approved. So that will be our next meeting coming up in October. So again, our next meeting will be October 14th. It'll be right here at 9 a.m. And Dylan will be back at that time, I believe. But Danya is here today to answer any questions as well, representing city staff. So I really appreciate your time this morning, and I'll turn it back to the chair.
Thank you very much. Does anyone from the public wish to speak on this item? If so, please step to the podium to ensure a complete record of the committee's actions. We ask that each individual wishing to speak clearly state your name and spell your last name for the clerk. We ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. Seeing none, is there anyone here to speak on items not on today's agenda? Seeing no one come forward, I'd like to ask Danya Perez, who is filling in for Dylan Mayu, if she has anything additional to report to this committee. Okay. Our next AHAC meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, October 14th at 9 a.m. in these chambers. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.